Greetings, everyone. I thought I would do another disaster of wires I have here. I wanted to do, I thought I would do another video on the 51, gate 51, which I just did a couple days ago, and several people are enjoying. Several friends have reached out and noted that they have this gate in their chart. And so I wanted to go deeper into it, especially as I have it myself. Some friends even have it double, and this is a very important gate in human design. Um, Really, really important gate. This gate is an actual portal. All the gates in some way or another are like mini portals or toroidal fields that we could feel in the bioenergetic field. The 51, however, is of very special significance because it is a portal and it has different expressions and different levels of frequency and awareness. Because this is a gate from the 25, which we have active right now with Neptune there. Um, Neptune having just moved there recently, slowly, or recently ingressed into Aries, however, into the 51 a little, into the 25, a little earlier, a couple weeks ahead. And what it is that with this activation of the 51 as of Friday till this Thursday, it automatically creates and turns on the ego center and the G center and activates the channel and portal of initiation. And so we're all going through this right now until Thursday. This is a very, very powerful moment. And if you're feeling lit up on primal fears and primal levels of intensity, then this is what it is. This is what is occurring in the sense that on the lowest level, you're going to be triggered about your deepest fears. And so on some level, the theme will be about overcoming fear. And the core of this, as the core of all fears is the fear of death, right? The fear of, in particular, the name of this gate, the gate of shock, in fear of shock and the grand ultimate shock, which is death. And so there's a very strong resonance with the movement of the 25 to the 51 because it is a death. It's a movement of one world to another. It's a portal gate. It's a transcendent experience from this world to another. And it's very powerful. Um, and it's also very foreboding in the sense that it triggers the fear of the unknown. So people that have this gate are here to overcome these deep fears that are related to the shock, to the transformation. Because death is always a shock. Even if it's a little death in the sense of going from one state of consciousness to another. So for example, if you have Neptune in this particular gate in the 25 or the 51, then the transition is experienced as a state of consciousness from one state of consciousness to another state of consciousness. If it's in Uranus, then it's a sudden shift into another world, some kind of world that seems alien. If it's to Pluto, it could be a major death. It could be of sorts. It could be a crisis, a mental crisis. It could be um, something so impactful that the ego can barely handle it and cannot even really deal with it until after the shock of it. Pluto being the major transformer of the planets. And if it's Jupiter, then it's absorbing, it's taking into itself the transference from one world to another. So it's taking on a whole new world at once. Jupiter absorbs things into itself. If it's Saturn, then it's restricting, it's closing, it's not completely closing the door because it can't do that because Neptune's still there, but it's tightening the entry point. It's limiting it, what exactly gets in. And so right now we have this unbidden presence of Neptune in gate 25, and Saturn is on its way, but it's not here yet. And then so all of a sudden the bridge is cleared to the other side with gate 51 there. And it's not clear so much that it's something conscious that we can necessarily see, though some of us can. It is a portal, it is a gateway. And so it's good to practice meditation this week. The core of this being a Promethean endeavor. And I think I even mentioned it sometime, and I am quoting Evola on this. He talked about his tendency towards Promethean endeavors. And I haven't yet checked if he had gate 51, but I mention him quite often in the story where he was injured by a bomb. And he had this tendency to really push fate or to attempt to um, risk life and trust his own resolution and his own fate, regardless of his actions, especially putting himself to risk and putting himself really to the uncomfortable truth that life is always beyond our control. And so what usually dwells in the core of this gate, of this portal, of this toroidal, mini toroidal field is this unsettling feeling that disturbs the body, causes insecurities, and at some level represents the real feeling of that we're beings that are completely out of control. Anything can suddenly occur, and our life could shift and change and transition to some other side of reality. And so the story goes around that Evola, Julius Evola, the philosopher magician in World War II, the story goes that he would walk about during the London Blitz bombings, and he actually got injured by a bomb. And so it begs the reminder of that all the shocks that we have in our lives, and this also depends on the line number 1 through 6. And we're going through this process now with the first line beginning on Friday, and which is creating a foundation for this feeling. And then us moving slowly into the second line today, and maybe a little yesterday, and then the third line tomorrow. Now, the third line is one that can be a real trial and error shock, can be a real challenge. So it's one to observe and see how the beginning of the week goes, Monday and Tuesday. Because this could really trigger us into our deep fears around frequency shocks and perhaps enact a kind of humility in the being, in the self. Because all of us, all of us feel fear in the face of an environment that can threaten us, that could annihilate us. And so the lesson here is really a Jupiter lesson, I feel. And this is a lesson, not necessarily Jupiter's response here, but this is a lesson I talk about often, being kind of dark side astrologer and uh, and human design analyst, I'm not here to um, put everything in the light, and make it all fuzzy and love and light. But I do speak of the heart, and I do speak of the authenticity of feeling and lighting a candle in the alcove of your heart and feeling and knowing who you are and having love and compassion for humanity as well as yourself and others close to you. And that's something I feel very strongly. But more so what I talk about is usually put in the words of like shadow work, but I don't, our terms lose meaning so quickly, especially when they're overused. What I'm talking about here is being comfortable with darkness, being comfortable with all forms of darkness. I think the other day I added the quote from, I think it's from Apocalypse Now, where Kurtz says in the end of the film or somewhere near it, he says, horror and moral terror are your friends. And if they are not, they are enemies to be feared, truly enemies. And so my share today is that in order to overcome fear, it's important to become comfortable with darkness and uncomfortability. And that's a really difficult thing. And one does this as Evola did, as I've done in my life, here and there. I don't think I am always so open or available to Promethean type endeavors because it's a real challenge to the self. But this is a challenge that must be taken, I feel, especially by 51s and especially by all of us now. And what it is, it's to learn to feel safe in your environment, learn to feel safety in your body. And when I say learn, I mean, I know that sounds empty because it's not like a decision you just make. It's it's really a decision your body makes for the nervous system to calm and to feel regulated. But there's actions you can do to assist the body in getting to that. Because shock is something we all need recovery from. And trust is something that can resolve the fear and agitation and the unsettled feelings in the body. But really, what I'm talking about here is learning to feel comfortable in all environments. And like Jupiter, not absorbing the energy or the psychic energy of your environments, but rather becoming or containing your whole environment, knowing that you are you and the whole world is within you, is what I mean. Extending yourself to the point that there is nothing outside of you that can be a threat because it's all you, in the sense that everything is a mirror for what's going on within us. When you're on a certain frequency, those that are not on that frequency, they cannot really see you. And that's why we always hear like, what you put your attention on is everything, right? Once everything is inside of you, once you realize the whole world is within you and outside of you, that the planets don't just move about outside of us, but move about within us, then you understand that you can feel no threat from your environment because your environment is you. And perhaps that's one of the keys to the portal of Gate 51 and the triggering of deep fear that can be felt in the body. And recently Gary did a video on time. We've had some conversations on it on my Discord. I would bring up some of those things because it'll help, I feel, us understand this. And what it is to understand the nature of this realm, the nature that perhaps we are constantly bombarded by screens, by images that give us the illusion of movement. That perhaps as we walk outside, as I did today, and go on a nice little walk in the neighborhood and say hi to this person or that person as they drive by, or say hi to the dogs on my walk and greet the trees as I pass through them, as I sit on a stump across from a horse farm. As I look at everything, as I see everything, but only to realize that I never went on a walk. I didn't really get into a car and move anywhere and go anywhere yesterday. That I did not get into a plane and go from one country to another a couple months back. But rather, there was a series of screens that carried forth the illusion that I did. You know, the greatest example being getting in a car and driving. Like, imagine in a car, you're actually not moving, right? It's a series of screens giving the illusion of movement as if you're moving in something. But being in a car is the greatest example because you're actually still. But the car is supposedly moving. And this carries forth to the illusion of our beingness, our movement in this realm. The true nature of which is that we can only resonate what we resonate with. We can only experience what can experience us. We only match like songs that have the same beat or play similar intervals. I'm reminded of Nightbringer that plays layers over their albums of dissonant intervallic song structures, and they layer over and over, and I did this too in one of my early demos. And this is so weird because it creates an atmospheric presence or essence, which becomes its own frequency. Everything is merged together, kind of like a Neptune experience. Neptune wants to connect everything, like a Venus or a Neptune. So in this sense, what I'm saying is that it can help to understand that we never really move. We're never really anywhere but here in our own bodies, in the portal of our own heart. And no matter where we seem to go, we're always here. And perhaps this is the most difficult truth to realize, that we're never away from home, that we can never really run away from anything because we're always here, right here in the alcove of the heart. And there's always a flame there for if it blows out, you can light it. See, feel, and then know the essence. Remind yourself of the essence of who you are. One last thing I wanted to add was, and I thought I had looked for this before the video, so I'm going to stop share for a minute because I don't know if it switches. You guys might know this. Perhaps it's kind of cliche at this point, and I don't even think this. No, I'm pretty sure it was in the book. Let's see if I can find it. So as many of you guys know, I love to talk about literature. And there's one particular science fiction novel that has become very popular in its cinematic form. And so I'm just going to present it again if I can as a reminder. Let's see if I can share it. And so I end this with the Litany of Fear, written by Brian Herbert in his 70s novel Dune. Should I press something that gave it this strange color? Hey, it's not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and through me. And when it has gone past, I will turn the inner eye to see its path. Where the fear has gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain. Can I leave you guys with that? We got a couple more, maybe till Thursday. We got gate 51. So that's one, two, three, maybe 4 more days. So feel into it. You'll be lit up on deep fears and agitation in the body, and see if you can follow it and let it feel and pass through you. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Thanks for enjoying my videos. Please share with others as I make my climb, and have a great night.